This training is all about building a business around online courses, selling them, having repeat customers. We could not have a better speaker on this topic or just the general topic of marketing your business with video, building a business, building a brand. Adam Haritan, today's speaker, is someone that I have learned a lot from in a lot of different facets of my life. He's built an incredible business that I admire. He is a dear friend, and he is someone that is one of the best public speakers that I have ever borne witness to, and I've gotten to bear witness to it multiple times. So everyone here is in for a treat. I am going to cede the floor to Adam.
I'm really excited to be here discussing something that I normally don't get to talk about, which is the business side of things. I speak about nature a lot. I speak about wild foods a lot and foraging and the benefits of being out in the woods. But I hardly ever get to talk about this. But it's a huge part of what I do. And in fact, I study the business side of things, just as much as I study the nature side of things. But people hardly know that because all they see is what they see on YouTube or what they see live whenever I'm presenting. So the title of this, do you see how it says YouTube, online courses, and the one step in between? Okay.
Yep.
I just decided to create a fancy title. The one step in between isn't anything like extraordinary or anything secret. Like I'm going to tell you what it is, but I thought, well, the funnel that I run is YouTube and eventually it ends at the online course, but there is something in between that maybe not a lot of people talk about. And, I'll get to it in just a couple of seconds. So that's why it's called the one step in between, but mostly we're going to focus on getting to the online course sales. So I just want to talk about the business side of things, what I do. So what is Learn Your Land? Just in case you guys have no idea, it's okay if you have no idea. I would say 99% of the world population, 99.999% has no idea what Learn Your Land is, but some people do. And I'm very familiar with it because it's a business that I've been running since 2015, which is exactly the same year I think I met Aaron, 2015. So he's watched this whole thing evolve in the past 9 years. And I actually owe a lot of the success to Aaron. And I've told him that many, many times. Like we brainstorm a lot about this kind of stuff. And he's been huge in helping me evolve and get to the root of like what Learn Your Land is and how best to market some of the stuff that I have to sell. So Learn Your Land is a nature education company. I started it in 2015, basically with zero business experience whatsoever. None, completely. I was raised playing music, a lot of different instruments. I studied music at Duquesne University. I studied nutrition at the University of Pittsburgh. And then I started a business called Learn Your Land, mostly because I was interested in health and nutrition around 2010 to 2014. And health and nutrition led me into the woods because I started foraging for medicine and foraging for food. And I thought, I want to take people out here and show them how awesome it is to be outside in nature and the healing power of nature, not just like spiritually, but also eating things and making medicine out of what I'm finding. So early on, how I would generate revenue was essentially physical products. I sold tinctures that I would create from wild plants and mushrooms, and I sold guides. So I created a mushroom guide, real rudimentary, that I would sell for $10. And I would teach classes in person. So I'd have to physically be there. I would go to garden clubs. I would go to environmental centers and nature clubs and all that stuff and teach people about foraging and wild foods and all that stuff. Started the YouTube channel in 2015. I'll get to that in a second. And then it basically brought me all the way here, which is now I'm not really selling any physical products. I'm not doing a lot of in-person programming, but I'm doing a lot of online teaching right now. Although I am doing some live programming this year, I guess. So it sounds really cliche. You have to know you can do it. But I'm putting it there because when I lead events today, or when I meet people who say, hey, I watch your videos, it's nice to meet you. One of the top questions I receive is, so what's your day job? Like, what do you actually do for money? Because they don't believe that you can do this and make money, and you can do this. This could be your sole job. It could be your sole career. And I don't think that's any of you. Like, I know you guys probably know that you can do something like this and make money, but there are still people in 2024 that don't know that you could turn your passion into your career. And I remember early on, like 2010, 2011, listening to Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss and all these people talking about, specifically Gary Vee. I don't know if you remember him talking about Smurfs. He used to talk about Smurfs a lot. He's like, if you're into Smurfs, Smurf it up, just Smurf it up and you can make a living out of it. And that always stuck with me. And I never doubted it. I always thought, of course. Yeah, of course. And you're super into something. There is a market for that. You're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to work super hard. But yeah, of course, no matter what it is, I think you can find a way to make it happen. And not only think, but I know you can find a way to make it happen. And so when I write, you have to know you can do it. Don't just hope you can do it. Don't just believe you can do it. You have to know you can do it. So if you want to do something like I'm doing, which is turning YouTube viewers into paying customers through online courses, don't just think you can do it. Don't just hope. No, you can do it because you absolutely can do it. And what I'm about to share with you is just my experience. And again, no business background whatsoever. I think my strength is I just get super excited when I talk about this kind of stuff. And people really like that. Like if you're super excited about anything, I think people feed off of that enthusiasm. So know that you can do it. Don't believe it. Don't hope. Don't think. Know that you can do something like this. And again, the only reason I'm saying that is because I know that there are people who don't believe this based on the comments that I receive when I lead a walk. And they say, what's your day job? And I don't know whether to take offense to that because they don't think that I can turn something like this into a paying gig. Or maybe I should take that as a compliment because maybe they don't see how hard I'm actually working and they just see like a finished, polished product, which looks easy. Like the videos on YouTube, it looks like, oh, he just went out with a camera and he filmed something. That was a lot of work. That was like 20 hours of work in order to make that happen. But I don't talk about that process, which is why some people think probably I don't do anything else except just like put out a 2-minute video. But there's a lot of work involved. Anyway, we are going to talk about my funnel. It's a very basic funnel. It's a very simple funnel. And it's not something that I invented. But this is basically what it is. It's YouTube. There's that one step in between. It's email and it's online courses. Now, the mistake I see a lot of people make, and I'm sure some people, they don't think it's a mistake or it's not a mistake for them, but they're the exception. They skip the email part. They go straight from video marketing, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, posting videos, and they want to sell products directly to their customers. And I understand that that can work in some cases, but I would say 9 times out of 10, it's going to be so much easier if you can get those people onto an email list and then market to your email list. And it's not just my experience talking. Whenever I listen to people on podcasts or other YouTube videos, or I listen to marketers, they're still talking about the value of email and how important it is to build an email list and to nurture that email list. If I have something to sell, doesn't matter what it is, and I sell it on Facebook, or I sell it on Instagram, or I sell it on YouTube, even directly on YouTube. If I also sell that same thing through an email, 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to make more sales on YouTube every single time. That's been my experience over the past 5 years. There's just something about email, and we'll talk about it. So whenever I discuss this funnel as 1, 2, 3, keep in mind that 1 and 2 kind of go back and forth. So it's not like I release a video, I get an email, then I market to them immediately. YouTube helps build the email list, but with that email list, I also market my YouTube channel. And 1 and 2 go back and forth for months and months and months and months until I have something to sell, which is the online course. And again, this goes back to Gary Vee's thing of jab, 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 right hook, which he stole from somebody else, but just turned it into the boxing analogy. He didn't steal it. I mean, it's just like a common thing. Give away a lot of free stuff before you sell to somebody. And what I give away for free is just free YouTube videos, which are tutorial based. So they're very, very educational. It's not vlog style. It's not strictly for entertainment purposes, although sometimes I like to have fun on these videos. They're educational. So I feel like it's a lot of free content. And sometimes I get an email address doing a live event. So if you ever do live events and you give a presentation on something, bring a sign-up sheet and just tell people, sign up for my email list and we can stay in touch. And they might not even know about any videos that you have anywhere. And so sometimes I get an email address and they have no idea what the YouTube channel is. So that basically funnels back into number 1, but then that feeds back into number 2. And then comes number 3, but we'll get to that in a couple of seconds. Okay, so let's talk about YouTube. I was going to go to my YouTube channel, but if you guys have a browser, you can just pull it up. I just don't think I'll be able to go back and forth. But it's youtube.com/learnyourland. So that's the YouTube channel. And I'll look at it over here. I have a dual monitor. I think I can look at it on a separate screen. Or maybe not, actually. Okay. So I would just say up front, I don't consider myself to be a YouTuber. I don't consider myself to be a YouTuber. There are so many things wrong with my YouTube channel. You can look at it right now, and I'm sure you could pick apart so many different things, like 10 different things, and say, yeah, you could improve on that. Yeah, you could do this differently. Yeah, your titles need to be better. Yeah, your thumbnails need to be better. Yeah, it's not very sensationalized. Or why are you using these yellow arrows like on the past 7 videos? I have no idea. I just noticed that today. Like the past 6 or 7 videos, I have a yellow arrow. I have a very detached relationship to YouTube. I like it a lot, but I'm not like beholden to YouTube for anything else except just to promote what I have to share. I only started monetizing YouTube 8 months ago. 8 months ago. I think I could have monetized back in 2018 or 2019 maybe, and I resisted up until July of 2023. And it was actually a very hard decision to monetize it. And the original reason that I didn't monetize was I don't like ads to begin with. I just don't like them. Anytime there's a commercial on TV, I mute it. Anytime there's a commercial on at the gym, I turn away. I've never clicked on a YouTube ad. I've never clicked, well, maybe I've clicked on some Facebook ads. I don't know, but I rarely, if ever. And I don't know. I just feel like it muddles the message that I'm trying to promote, or at least it did back in the day. The reason that I switched in July of 2023 to monetizing, one, I just wanted to do an experiment just to see like how much money do they actually pay for videos like this. But also I feel like at that point, people were so used to ads that people didn't even notice whether ads were on or not. It's like billboards on the highway. You just don't even see them anymore because we're just so used to seeing that kind of stuff. So early on, I thought I can differentiate myself by not putting ads in my videos. And then there came a point when nobody cared. Nobody was saying thank you for not putting ads on your videos. And when I turned them on, nobody noticed. Nobody was like, why are you advertising all of a sudden? Nobody really noticed. So I'm only like 8 months in, but the money's been decent. But I've never had to rely on YouTube as my sole source of income. So I've never had to like bow down to the algorithm to make sure that I can pay my bills. I always felt a lot of freedom with YouTube because I genuinely didn't really care if I was being benefited by the algorithm or not. Something else that I do, which maybe it sounds controversial, but maybe not. I don't check stats. Like I really don't. The only number I really check, and this is like a week or two after I post a video, is total views on the video. I release a video, and I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes when you have like a creative project, you release it to the world. It's like, I'm on to the next thing. And I don't even want to look at it anymore. And I think there's a reason that we use that word release, because it's like you release something. And I feel that way with videos, even though they're educational and tutorial based. I feel like it was a creative project that I need to step away from and not really care about it after the fact that I released it. So I'll monitor the comments for about 2 hours just to make sure I didn't make any mistakes. And sometimes I make mistakes, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I need to pull that video because there was actually like an egregious error in that video. That's only happened once or twice. But for the most part, I just want to see that the video actually worked, that there's no editing mistake, that somebody's like, you uploaded the wrong video. So I monitor for about 2 hours, and then I forget about it for maybe a week or two. And then I'll go back and see, okay, yeah, it did this amount of views. That's nice. I'll move on to the next thing. Having said that, I've seen trends over the past couple of years, and I see what kind of works for my channel, and I see what kind of doesn't work. So you're probably thinking to yourself right now, Adam, it's obvious that you don't check numbers because your channel's not huge. If you just optimize for numbers, you would have a bigger channel. And you're probably right. Like if I saw where people were dipping off, or if I saw, I don't know, which were like the most watched parts of my videos, I could probably start to optimize for some of those things and create better videos. But I'm content with the numbers. Like I used to play in a band, and if 1,000 people showed up to watch us, that was like the pinnacle of our career. Like 1,000 people in a club watching us. Nowadays, it's like 20,000 people watched my video or at least clicked on it. I'm so grateful for that. Like, that's incredible. Like, I think we need to give ourselves some more credit. If even like 40 people watch our video, because that's something. And I'm sure that there are people who are pulling in like millions of views per video, and they're still saying that's not enough. Needs to be more, needs to be more, needs to be more. I don't want to be that kind of person. I'm kind of content with where I am. So I don't really optimize for numbers, but I know what kind of works for my channel. What works are listicles. If I ever do like a 6 this, 7 that, 15 that, 14 that, videos tend to do pretty well. Also, there are certain mushrooms or plants or trees that if you talk about them, you're like guaranteed at least 50,000 views. But I don't want to be that person that just talks about that mushroom or that plant or that herb. Like, I don't want to turn my channel into that. So I sparingly use those, but I kind of know that if I do it and combine that with a listicle, it's probably going to do pretty well. What doesn't work, what are like total flops, are actually my favorite videos to do. And I don't know how that correlation exists, but what I really like to do, they're total flops. And what I really like to do, nature philosophy videos, where I just talk about deeper meanings in life, you know, life and death and rebirth and transition and tying this to nature. Super bad. Like, I just don't get views on those kinds of videos. And it's kind of unfortunate because I love working on them, but they just don't do well. So do you know the solution, like how I get around that? I inject some of that into the tutorial videos. So I'll just casually mention something about death, like a video on 5 things about mushrooms. Or I'll casually mention about life and rebirth and all this stuff when I'm talking like strictly about like how a fungus operates or breaks down or sporulates or something like that. So that's how I've been able to get around it. But maybe one of these days, people will appreciate the nature philosophy videos a little more. So that's my YouTube strategy. Email is next. So I have that quote on there because I really like it. And it basically summarizes why I really like to use email, which is it's personal, but you can also scale it as well. So I'm going to go back one step and talk about YouTube. One of the reasons that I use YouTube is to generate emails, get people onto my email list. And how I do that, nearly every single video, at the end of a video, I say, if you want to support this channel, subscribe to it and head on over to learnyourland.com and sign up for the email newsletter list. And that's how I'm able to build my email list. Currently, I have about 56,000, maybe 57,000 people on the email list, which again, isn't huge, but it's not nothing. Like, it's something. And the more that I talk about it, the more email addresses that I get. So end of every video, always mention it. It's in the video notes, how to sign up for the email list. And also sometimes it's a pinned comment, how to get on that email list. So basically, a lot of my YouTube videos, not only are they educational, they teach you something, they're commercials for my email list. It's like one long commercial. And instead of like buying now, it's just sign up now for the email list. And it's free. It's not like you got to pay or anything. But going back to this quote, email has an ability many channels don't, creating valuable personal touches at scale. So when somebody gives you their email address, they're giving you what I feel is like a part of them. It's so much more intimate if they give you an email address compared to if they hit subscribe, if they hit follow, if they hit like. Giving you their email address, they're putting trust in you to do something with this, and they can take it away at any second. Like, if you abuse that privilege, or if they think you abused the privilege, even if you really didn't, they'll take it away from you. So I nourish that email list. I cultivate that thing. And I treat these people with the utmost respect, meaning I only send a couple emails a month, maybe 2, unless I'm launching an online course and I sell a couple, and I send a couple more emails, but usually 1 or 2 per month, and that's about it. And I never sell anything except my own products. I don't put any ads in my emails. And I wish I could share with you some of my emails, but I don't think I'll be able to do that because I don't know how to do that. Anyway, most of my emails are just that. Very educational, and there's one call to action and nothing else. I used to put a bunch of more call to actions. And personally, I don't like that. When somebody sends me an email and there's like 8 links or 10 links or 20 different links, I just don't like it. It's way too overwhelming, and I feel like it would take me a week to get through all of that stuff. So one call to action in my email. I used to have 2 sometimes, but it's very rare if I have anything more than 1. And most of it is just watch the YouTube video, watch the YouTube video, watch the YouTube video. and I put it in multiple sections in that email. And all the images are linked to that as well. So one thing that I see people could improve in their emails is link up every image. So if you have an image in your email, don't just make it like it blows up the image. Make that a link back to where you want them to go. And nurture that email list because, like I said, it is very personal, but it's at scale as well, meaning you can reach a lot of people with it. And you can segment emails, you can put people's first names and last names, but I really think that this is something that's super undervalued. And whenever I started Learn Your Land, I remember every entrepreneur that I was listening to through podcasts or on videos say, I wish I started my email list sooner. I wish I started it sooner. I wish I started it sooner. And even today, it's still big. I mean, there's a reason that some of the biggest names in business are still utilizing email. Even though it might seem that younger people today aren't using it as much, well, they're the ones without money anyway. So you don't want those customers. You want the people with the money. They're the older people. But they'll eventually get email because you'll have to one day. But yeah, definitely still utilize email. I wouldn't be able to sell online courses without it. Like I said before, if I try to sell something through Facebook, Instagram, any other channel, even directly on YouTube, it's not going to convert as well as it would if I send somebody an email because they genuinely feel like you're reaching out to that person. Even though they know it's an automated email, there's just something personal about it. They really feel like you're reaching out. And then online courses. And if you have any question as to why you might want to consider online courses, just look at that graph and look how it goes up to the right. So a marketing research firm came out with this study, and they basically said that in 2022, the market was about $217 billion. And over 7 years, by 2030, I'm not a mathematician, but 475 looks more than twice of 217, which is, it's going to more than double within 7 years with a compound annual growth rate, which is that CAGR, 9.1%. So that's huge. Now, this isn't just like digital creators like myself selling online courses. This is universities. These are companies, large-scale organizations, K through 12. That's all factored in there. But it just goes to show that the trend is going up. And I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. If not, I think it'll keep increasing. That's one of the reasons to get into it. Also, if you're interested in video, and I imagine that you are if you're part of this guild, you already have the skills to do it because online courses mostly are video-based. Yes, you could do email courses. Yes, you could do text courses. You could do PDFs, you could do slides and that kind of stuff, but a lot of it's video-based. So if you know how to use video, if you know how to edit, and if you know how to teach, that's the piece that I guess is the like wild card in there. As long as you can teach, online courses might be for you. But even if you can't teach, I would still encourage you to look into online courses. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's one of the reasons why I recommend doing online courses. So how do you do an online course? Well, I've launched 2 so far. One's called Foraging Wild Mushrooms, and the other is called Trees in All Seasons. And if you're on a computer, if you go to learnyourland.com and just scroll down just a little bit, you will see links for both of those courses. Or you can go to the top of the page and check out those 2 online courses just to see what the sales pages look like and how I market them. So Foraging Wild Mushrooms teaches people how to forage mushrooms. And it sounds like such a niche thing. And it is. Like, I'm pretty sure that most of the world's population, they're not interested in foraging mushrooms. But I'm interested in it, and I know that many people are. And so that's a reason to do something like that, because not many people are willing to put out content like this. That's the other thing with online courses. It takes some work. It takes some time. It's different than just a video on YouTube. It's different than just a video on TikTok. You're putting in more work, so you will be rewarded in different ways than those people that are just simply putting out free content. But I put out Foraging Wild Mushrooms in 2019. I put out Trees in All Seasons in 2022. I'm currently working on the 3rd one, which will be released in 2024. And if you look at that trend, you can see that there are years in between each one. And the reason that there are years in between each one is that that's how long it takes me to film an online course and to edit it and to market it. So I'm not the kind of person that in a weekend, I can film an online course and just launch it. I'm sure there are some people that can do that, but I'm of the belief that if you put a lot of time into it and you really, really, really focus on quality, that's where you'll start to see a lot of the rewards. And when I started learning how to produce online courses, I would take online courses from other people selling you how to make an online course, which sounds really weird, but there are courses on how to market online courses. or I would attend webinars or listen to podcasts and YouTube videos on how to do it. A lot of people, they make it seem easy, and the strategy is actually pretty easy. Like that 6-step strategy that I have right there, it's simple, but there's a lot of work involved. But the one thing people would talk about was like, okay, filming. You're going to need to set aside like 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks to film this online course. And I always had a laugh because the nature of my online courses is that it's based on nature. So it's very seasonal, meaning I might have to wait 8 months in order to get shots of something in the snow. Like if I'm filming about winter mushrooms, I don't want to film in the summertime talking about winter mushrooms. And I actually started doing that. When I started foraging wild mushrooms, I was filming in the summer and I thought I could just film everything in the summer and just talk about winter mushrooms. But you're hearing cicadas in the background. And then in the fall, you're seeing leaves drop, and I'm talking about something that's happening in the spring, and I'm talking about wildflowers in the spring, and it just didn't make any sense. And I thought, do it right the first time. Because if you do it right the first time, you could essentially market these things for years and years and years and never have to really go back and edit too many things. Now, of course, you'll have to market it over and over and over again, but take your time the first time you do it. That way you don't have to go back. So that's what pre-planning is all about. And pre-planning is essentially coming up with the idea and then making an outline as well. Now, if you've ever taken an online course, if you've created one, you'll know that a lot of these course platforms, they'll help you chunk your online course into what are called modules, modules. And these are essentially chapters of an online course. You break it down into modules, and then within each module, you have separate lessons. Many people will say you need like 4 modules, all the way up to 12, all the way up to 15 modules, and then you throw the lessons in there. But it's really up to you. There are short courses that are 2 or 3 modules. There are very long courses that are 15 to 20 modules. It just all depends on your subject matter. So there's no right or wrong answer. Typically, my courses are about 11 or 12 modules, and there are about 4 all the way up to 12 lessons within each module. But I plan all that out in advance so that when it comes time to research and film it, it's kind of streamlined from there. But researching and filming is exactly what it sounds like. I think you know what that means. Editing, same thing. I edit everything myself. If you like to edit, I encourage you to do it unless you're strapped for time, because if you do it yourself, you get to save a lot of money. Because it costs some money to have people edit your stuff. But once you do all that, many people skip to step number 5, or they think they can skip to step number 5, but they forget about step number 4. And the thing about an online course is if you build up the hype, people will get super, super, super excited about it. If you don't build up the hype and you just come out with an email that says, hey guys, I have an online course, you should buy it right now. Here's why you should buy it. You'll get some sales, but there's nothing like, oh, people getting in line for it, or joining a notification list and hearing over time the excitement you have for it so that they get excited. And if I have a course coming out in a particular month, I might start mentioning it a year in advance and say, hey guys, I'm working on this thing. You don't have to give out too much information, but just mention that you're working on this thing. And then a couple months in advance, maybe start a notification list where you go to the website and you can't register, but it says join the waiting list. That's another way to build emails, because if they sign up your notification list, all you have to say is by signing up for this notification list, you're also agreeing to be part of the email list. And that's an excellent way to build the email list, because they're actually getting something in return for that. They're getting that right to know first when you have an online course for sale. So one of the ways that I've been able to build an email list is simply through notification lists of the online courses. And nobody really taught me that. I just decided to do it, and I noticed that it worked very, very well. Then whenever you launch the course, when I launch a course, it's a whole week of launches, sometimes 2 weeks, and I plan it out. Now, one thing that I want to mention about the online courses for me is they're all pre-recorded. They're 100% pre-recorded, and there's an open date and there's a closed date. Not everybody does this. Some people, they have courses open 24/7, 365 days a year, and that can work. Some people have live components to their courses. And as Mark was saying, a lot of people have communities to their courses as well. The way I structure my courses, because I like freedom and independence and the ability to step away from my computer whenever I want to, I like to pre-record everything and put as much self-guided material in there as possible with instructions on how this course operates, so that when people when people have access to it, they can take it on their own time. knowing that they have full access to emailing me at any time that they want, and I respond within 24 hours. So that is the guarantee that I give people. It's pre-recorded. There isn't a community, but you have access to me. And I try to respond within 24 hours. Sometimes I respond within an hour, as long as you're a student of the course and I can see that you're a student of the course. Now, the reason that I do close it down is because I want to create scarcity. And this is an old marketing technique. Like, if you have a product that somebody could technically buy at any time forever, what's going to make them want to buy today? For me, I implement two methods of scarcity. One is there's a short window of time to register. You have 1 week and then it closes down and I don't know when I'm going to open it up again. And two, sometimes I put them on sale. So if you put them on sale, the scarcity is you get it at the sale price for 1 week. And then after this, you're going to get it at full price. So you might as well buy this week. That's what launch is all about. And I only send maybe 4 or 5 emails during launch week. Some people like to send an email every day. They like to send 5 emails that final day. And then like 10 minutes before midnight, they're still emailing you. I've never been that kind of person. I don't mind if I get emails like that from people. I just don't do it. A final email on the final day, that's what I typically do. And if I'm closing it down, I honor my word. So perhaps you've been on email lists, or maybe you've done this yourself. I don't know. I just don't do it. Where they close down the course and then a day later or 2 days later, oh wait, they're open again for 24 more hours because some people missed that window. If people miss the window, I'll individually email them and say, yeah, here's the link to the checkout page. But I'm not going to send a bulk email again because I feel like it kind of cheats the people who did purchase on time. And it takes that reward away from them. So that's just the way I've been operating it for the past couple of years. And then post-launch is basically what worked, what didn't, when are you going to open it up again? Because people are going to be asking, and you should generally know when you're going to open it up again. And then you could repeat it all over again. You don't have to repeat the planning and researching, filming, all that stuff. It's basically the marketing. It's 4 through 6 again. And you can continue doing that over and over and over and over again. Now, when I remarket a course, I don't send the same emails. So I have a bunch of templates, but I always customize it again. I always change it up because I like writing personally, but I feel like I owe it to people who are going to buy this that I'm still putting work into this so that you can still find value out of it. It's not like completely outdated information. It's still a lot of new stuff. And that's just how I've been operating these courses over the past couple of years. And they've been successful in that way. So I want to talk about these two things because this is basically what's going through my mind a lot of times when I'm filming online courses and when I'm marketing online courses. We already talked about quality. It's a great way to set yourself apart from a lot of people. I know that there's a lot of quality stuff on the internet now, but it's mostly because the algorithm's pushing a lot of that quality stuff. There's a lot of poor quality stuff out there. And if you're going to create a class for somebody, I think you owe it to them to just like really put your heart and soul into it and to make it really stand out. And again, do it right the first time, because if people start commenting, yeah, the information's good, but like the lighting was poor, the sound's really bad, you're just going to have to go back and create more work for yourself. So just do it right the first time so that you don't have to go back and do that. Delayed gratification is what this is all about as well. Because think about it. If you're going to spend 6 months doing an online course, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years trying to build an online course, you also have to, if you have a YouTube channel, put out free content. You also have to nurture that email list. You can't just disappear completely, at least not yet. You might also have to monitor your Instagram page, your TikTok page, Facebook, all that stuff, while you're building this thing on the side that nobody is seeing for months, if not years. And you have to be okay with that. And I've noticed over the years that I get really antsy. It's like, oh, I wish people could see this, or I wish it was done right now. But it's going to be so worth it in 18 months from now when this thing comes out. And I imagine what it's like when people write books. I've never written a book, but I imagine that when people write books, it's the same thing. It's like you're working behind the scenes. Nobody sees how hard you're working. But that's some of the best work out there. If you think about the best work in any kind of field, whether it's architecture, whether it's writing, whether it's painting, whether it's engineering, anything like that, always takes a long, long, long time. It's not to say you can't put out quick stuff, but you could set yourself apart if you delay gratification and you put a lot of quality into it. Okay, so I just have a quick challenge before I wrap things up. The challenge, it would be so easy for me to say, not for you to do, but it would be easy for me to say, create an online course. That's a challenge. That's not the challenge. It's kind of related to that though. If you had to, like, if I gave you 5 minutes to just think, what are three ideas that you could come up with that you could create an online course on? Like, what can you do? Is there anything that people ask you about? Like, how do you do this thing? Has anybody ever asked you something like that? Like, what skills do you have that you think other people want to know? Don't think about like being paid for it. Just like, what can you do that other people find valuable? Maybe you don't think of yourself as an educator, but you're probably in the video and you probably know something about editing, or you can hire somebody to do the video. You could hire somebody to do the editing. Maybe you don't consider yourself a good teacher, but if you had to stretch yourself, if you had to teach something, what would it be? And try to come up with 3 ideas and then just see, could I create an online course on this? Could I just set aside a couple weeks, a couple months? You don't have to wait a year. You don't have to do 2 years. I mean, that could be your second or third online course, but even if it's something small, could you do it? And what would it be on? And just to give you ideas of how I experiment with this stuff, the Foraging Wild Mushrooms course I did, it took a year because I didn't do it properly right the first time, meaning I left a lot of things out. It was my first course. I spent an extra 2 years adding to it. Trees in All Seasons, that was 16 hours, by the way, total content. If you buy that course, it's 16 hours of content. The second course, Trees in All Seasons, it's 26 hours of content. And that one took 2.5 years. I've never had to go back and add anything to it because I learned my lesson from the first course to put quality into it the first time. You might think, okay, this third online course he's going to work on is going to be like 30 hours, 40 hours. I'm going the complete opposite direction. I'm creating a course that's only 6 hours long. It took a whole year to film, but there's 6 to 7 hours of content, and it's going to be priced at half of the price. And that's just the way that I'm trying to challenge myself. Like, I know I can do the big projects, but can I challenge myself to reach the people who might not be able to afford a $500 online course and somebody who doesn't have 26 hours to complete this? With something smaller, they can complete it in a weekend or 2 weekends. And so you could think of it that way. Like, if you can come up with ideas, would they be big ideas? Would they be something that would take 26 hours of the student's time in order to watch, or would it be something that's only 2 or 3 hours? There's no right or wrong answers. It's just what you feel comfortable doing and what you think your audience would enjoy. So that is, let me see. Oh, that's all I got. But I thought I'd leave some room for comments or questions or even challenges to my work if you want, because I'm open to all this stuff. And I know I left a lot of stuff out as far as like how I decide to price things, or how did I mess up the first online course, or other things like that. But if you have any questions about this stuff, I can stick around for a little bit and answer them for you. Again,
yeah, I'm gonna hit you with a couple questions, Adam, because there's some things that I want to make sure either get driven home that you said or that the group learns, and then we are going to open it to questions for everyone else. So first of all, let me just reiterate the number there. The tree course was 26 hours of content in total. How many videos? 140?
No, so that course has about 70 videos. 70
videos, 26 hours. And you worked on that for 2.5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
And we made the comment at the beginning, you don't have other employment. For those 2.5 years, were you doing like when you woke up, were you doing other things? Were you juggling? Or was the primary thing that you did for 2.5 years shoot, edit, write, research the course?
It was the main thing. Yeah, it was the main thing. And the thing that
2.5 years. I just want to make sure everyone's hearing that correctly. 2.5 years, full time, 70 videos, 26 hours. That is the leverage of when he says he's committed to quality. That is what he is talking about. I just want to make sure that landed, because when I was there riding along and he like, hey, I have the idea for the trees course. And then he's halfway through and it's 1.5 years later. You just need to drive home the degree of quality, the reason. And Adam, I'm sorry to not give you the floor here. I'm kind of holding the wheel tight. Like, what's your refund rate? Like people asking for refunds all the time, unsatisfied?
So that course has 0 refunds. Okay, it has 1 refund because it was a much older lady who couldn't figure out how to log in. And you know what I said to her? I said, I found out that she lives in Cranberry, Pennsylvania. I said, I'll meet you at a library and I'll help you log in and I'll give it to you for free. She thought that was so nice, but she said, no, I'm so technologically incapable. I'll just continue to watch your free stuff. But I gave her all her money back. Okay. But having said that, the mushroom course has some refunds to it, mostly because of that initial launch.
But that's the lesson to learn with the tree one. And you sold it hundreds of times for hundreds of dollars, 0 refunds. That's what, and you, if anyone asked, you would have done it. It's not like you were like dark patterns, like, oh, sorry, all the emails that come to me about, refunds get into this other folder that I never see, right? Like that's clearly not how you operate.
Correct. And you might be wondering, well, how did you get refunds on the first one? Poor marketing. I didn't market it for beginners. It's a course strictly for beginners. The problem that I ran into was people were tagging along my YouTube journey since 2015. They were building their skills as I was teaching. Then I come out with a product that starts everybody back at the beginning. And those people that I brought up to here were then given information that was back down here. It was nothing about the quality, according to them. There's nothing about like I lied to them. It's just they didn't know it was meant for beginners. So all that I did was now it's on the page. This is for beginners. Anytime that I market that course, this is strictly for beginners. If you can identify less than 10 mushrooms, this is for you. That's slash the refund rate. It's just poor marketing. I just didn't have the right wording on that page.
I'm going to harp on Adam. Can I ask you a follow-up question really quick on that?
Yeah.
Because I think that's super interesting. Like you can change the verbiage in now looking back and go, okay, this course that I made is for beginners. But for the people that you've brought on that path, like one of the questions would then be, do you now think about certain content like it's gated? Like you're leading people to a certain point and they're learning with you for free on YouTube. And then it's like, okay, well, at this point, this would be a good place for like a course, a paid thing. Like, how do you kind of manage what is going to be free for the journey and what's going to end up in a course? Or do they inform each other in like a pretty organic way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so when I came out with the tree course, I decided not to create any strict tree identification videos for YouTube that are titled as such. I talk about tree identification, and Mark was saying that he watched my latest video, and I go through the process of trying to identify an unknown tree, but it's not a tutorial-based video where I point out everything that's possible about this tree that you could identify it with. So I leave a lot hanging. I leave a lot in the air, and I don't give out as much specific information as I might have used to, unless I know for sure I'm not going to create an online course on this. So I guess I'm less thorough sometimes with subject matter that I know I'm going to put in an online course, but it's a lot of forward thinking. And it's a lot of navigating, like, what do I put out there? What do I not? And this goes back to the question that I received, like, if you're putting out free content, who's going to buy anything that you have to offer? You just have to get creative. You have to know what to put out and what to hold back. But the benefit of an online course is if you put things out on YouTube, it's so scattered though, because you're not putting it in order. You might put out a video a month from now, 6 months from now, you put out one 7 years ago. And yes, if they went back and pieced them together, there are the makings of an online course in there. But with an online course, you're curating it for them. You're putting a bubble around this lesson, tree identification or mushroom identification, and making them put blinders on to everything else that's out there. You're saying, here's what you need to know in what order. And if you follow this, here's the outcome that you will receive. So because look, information is so freely available. You don't need to really buy these courses. You can learn how to forage mushrooms in so many other ways. You can learn to identify trees in so many other ways. But in very few formats is it presented the way I present it. In video format, from beginner level to competent level.
Benji, you good? Do you have anything to build off that?
No, that was awesome.
Cool. I just want to go harp one more time on the quality because it bears repeating. So you talked about, I'm going to shoot the certain mushrooms that come out in the winter during the winter season. I'm going to shoot the certain mushrooms that come out in the summer during the summer, have everything line up. Your other course is called Trees in All Seasons. So tell me about the B-roll that you had to collect for just one of those 70 tree videos, and the steps that you went to make sure that someone could learn to identify that tree in all seasons.
That's a good question. First, there's hardly any B-roll that you can buy on this stuff. Like if anybody needs the female flower of a green ash tree, you got to get it yourself. Even field guides don't have this stuff. This was one of the tricky things about trying to film this stuff. There would be physical descriptions written down, but so many field guides leave out this stuff. And that was one of the selling points that I tried to put into the course. There's so much stuff in here that you won't get in field guides or that you would never even think about seeing. So I couldn't buy B-roll. All of the B-roll that I shot is just me going out there. I mean, literally for 4 seconds of footage, I drove 8 hours. Just to get 4 seconds of footage, I needed the flower of white birch. And I didn't even know where it was found. The other thing is I have to find these things. I know a little bit about trees, but sometimes I'm including trees that don't grow in Western Pennsylvania. So I'm driving out to the Poconos, I'm driving up to New York, I'm going down to West Virginia and bushwhacking through wilderness that I've never been in before with a tripod, with my camera, trying to find things. And if I didn't find it, I have to come home and reevaluate if I can include this in the course, because if I couldn't get the B-roll, I didn't include it in the course. But for one tree, like Aaron mentioned, I mean, I originally wanted to do the course in 1 year, Trees in All Seasons. I thought I could do it in 1 year. And then I remember having this conversation with my girlfriend. I basically felt defeated when I admitted to her, I don't think I can do this in a year. I just don't think I physically can. I could do it, but the quality would suffer. And she's like, that's fine, do it in 2 years. I was like, really? You don't mind if I do it in 2 years? Not like I need her permission, but for some reason I thought like I'd be judged if I couldn't do this task in 1 year. And so doing it in 2 years, I filmed most of the B-roll in 1 year, filmed the A-roll, which is like me speaking, the next year. But yeah, it's every season going out and making a list of what can I see in the springtime, mostly flowers, budding leaves. What can I capture in the summertime? Leaves, the whole form of the tree. Fall, all the changing colors. So every tree that changes a color, I tell you in the course, this is what color it changes. Red maples, they turn red. Black gums, they turn red, yellow, and orange. Black oak turns yellow, because those are key identifying features. And then in the wintertime, you got to get the buds of the trees. So I had to go back out and capture that. And I kept my hard drive in a fireproof safe in the basement, because I thought if I lose this thing, there goes 2 years of my life, literally. I thought about even giving one of those to my brothers or to Aaron or somebody, be like, can you hold this for me? Because if anything happens to my house, I need this intact. But I have it on 2 hard drives. One is still in a fireproof safe. But if anybody ever needs B-roll on trees of Eastern North America in video format, I got it. Not just photos, but video.
Word. Mark, I'm going to get you in 1 second. I want to hit one more point here. So don't give us a specific number, but about how many course sales, just for like one tree course, don't try to batch it all together, for the tree course, about how many courses will you sell in a year?
So the mushroom course sells better than the tree course. And I was talking to Aaron about this. It could be for any number of reasons. Maybe my marketing isn't as good for the tree course, or the tree course is more expensive. I currently price the tree course at $499. The mushroom course is at $375. So it's more expensive. Some people gripe about $375 for the mushroom course. Clearly, they're not going to buy a course that's $499. The other thing is, this is the real, well, I think the price has something to do with it. It's more expensive, the tree course. But mushroom foraging is sexier than tree identification. It's more hip right now. It's in. People are into it. They look better on Instagram when you take a picture of a mushroom compared to a tree. But I feel that learning trees is just as valuable, if not more valuable, for ecological knowledge than strictly learning mushrooms. But there's something about mushrooms that it just appeals to people. To be able to go into the woods, forage wild mushrooms, bring them home and cook them up and feed your family without dying, that sounds pretty legit. Going out and identifying trees, it doesn't seem as fun, but what I try to convince people of in the sales page is that it's absolutely necessary to do that, especially if you want to learn how to forage mushrooms. Having said that, the launch of any course, the initial launch is always the best seller. both courses had at initial launch between 450 to 500 sales, initial launch. Like first time I opened it for the week or 2 weeks, it was about 450 to 500. Currently, if I launch a course, 100, 120, 120. I'm not saying I've not launched, but like relaunch it, I should say. It's the same course that's already been marketed, but doing it again, opening it up again for another week. If I'm really good at the marketing, I can get about 100, maybe 120, but it'll fluctuate. Tree course might be down to 80, mushroom course might be up to 140, but somewhere in that range. The other thing, go ahead.
So how many weeks out of the year, out of a 52-week year, how many weeks will your course be open for say available to be purchased?
So I didn't mention this, so thanks for bringing this up. I mentioned that I open a course, then I close a course. I changed all that this year because
just go back to with the launch strategy though. I want to get to the open all the time, but just with like the first year of the mushroom course, for example, or the first year of the tree course, for example, how many weeks would it be actually open for sale?
About 3 weeks.
Okay. Out of 3 weeks out of 52 weeks in the year. We'll use conservative numbers here, 400 on launch, 100 open, 100 next open. Maybe that's not even it. And the rest of the time, it's just not even open for sale. I cannot emphasize enough the efficacy of his strategy, but also the courage associated with that. The courage to spend years making a course and to offer it for sale for 3 out of 52 weeks of the year. I told you I admired him. I told you he's a good friend of mine. But how mind-bending is that from a business strategy standpoint? Where have you ever heard anyone recommend doing that? Okay? I'm sorry. Now you can talk about opening it up full time. Now that's been open for a few years. I just want to make sure that people get that because that is bananas.
You know, it's funny because I guess I thought about that the first year, like this is bananas. But now it's just like, it's how I operate. So it's just like another day at the office for those 3 weeks. It's not to say I don't work for the other 49 weeks of the year. That's when I'm actually like out there filming and strategizing and doing all that stuff and working on YouTube. Having said that, and I talked to Aaron about this later last year, 2022, I was like, I think I'm going to experiment and just keep them open 24/7, 365 days a year, because I think people might be getting sick of hearing that foraging wild mushrooms is open again. Because people who were on the list back in 2019 who haven't bought are still getting that email today, every now and then. They might not budge 5 years later, unless I'm really creative with my wording. So I thought, I'll just experiment. And then on January 1st, I'll open it back up for good and just keep it open. And I've been doing that. No marketing whatsoever. So I don't put it in emails. I don't talk about it on YouTube. I just thought complete passive income at this point, just to see what would happen. And the trend looks like, based on 2 months of data, January and February, if I do nothing, I'll pull in about 1/5 the sales compared to opening up for a week, closing it, and sending emails during that week. So sales are coming in much slower. If I just continue to do nothing else, meaning I never mention it, it looks like I'll earn about 1/5 what I earned last year, not the first year. Last year wasn't a launch year, keep in mind. Last year I didn't have any new product last year. But the reason I experimented this year is because I have a new course coming out, and I think that will carry me forward. But who knows? Maybe it won't. But I'm going to create scarcity with this product. I'm going to include it, with foraging wild mushrooms and trees in all seasons. Even though it's open all year this year, I'm going to include it in some emails and just say, hey, if you like this video on YouTube, consider purchasing trees in all seasons if you're interested in tree identification. I might mention it in a couple YouTube videos, but it's going to be not too like in your face. But at the end of the year, I'm going to put both of them on sale, and that will create scarcity. I typically do a holiday sale in December because people like to buy these courses as gifts for other people. So that's another strategy. You can kind of work that in there, taking advantage of holiday sales, because people do buy this for other people. All they have to do is have me transfer the email address, and it's real seamless, real simple. And people are very surprised that they got this as a gift. They're very into it as well. So I'll create scarcity at the end of the year, and then I'll evaluate next year and see whether I should close them down and then reopen them back up.
Mark.
All great stuff, Adam. So obviously quality, niched product, scarcity, all these good things. Like my question is, so obviously you're heavy in the marketing, and I feel like when you're talking about marketing, you're talking about like the kind of the sales pages, the emails, and everything like that. YouTube with the, kind of the general like net to kind of grab people, get them intrigued, and then get them on the email list. Do you do anything, kind of two thoughts here? Do you do anything like, so for me, I have no idea I can't envision exactly who would want to buy these courses, like, because you would know better than me, right? Like the people that are interested in them. Did you do any research to find who that is, or did you let that all happen organically from just like them finding you in a way? Have you ever like advertised these courses outside of just like the content marketing on YouTube and like the website itself and the email list, or did you kind of do anything else to figure out who exactly you're trying to target and then get them interested?
That's a great question. It's very important to know who your customer is and to market to your customer. And I primarily do that in a couple ways. I mean, the prices that I have set for my courses, I know those are like the maximum prices somebody would be willing to pay for my courses. I don't do any advertising. It's all organic. It's all to that email list. But I get to know the people because when I send out emails, oftentimes I get responses from people. And I basically start conversations with people. I see who's commenting on my YouTube videos for many years, and I'm starting to do this again. I mean, I do live programs, and I meet a lot of the people who are on my email list. So I see what they're into. I see the questions that they have. I know what they're interested in, and I think about that whenever I'm marketing. But I've never done any market research. I don't target specific people. I just feel like if you sign up for my email list, you have to be interested in this. Somebody who has no interest in nature is not going to sign up for my email list, or if they accidentally do, they're going to be off in a second. And because I've had the email list for so long, I mean, people unsubscribe over time. And when you start selling, that's when the unsubscribes go up. Like the emails where I start pitching products, that's when the email list starts going down. But I'm okay with that. First, because having more people on your list costs more money. But I don't want the people on my list who don't see value in something that I put 2.5 years of my life into. Like some people get offended that you want to sell them a course when there's so much free information out there. I've had people say, shame on you for charging this much. Literally, shame on you for doing this and fleecing your customers. That's what they've said. And I thought, look, if I built you a house, you probably pay for it, right? Like just the materials alone cost money. And you don't have to buy it. It's over there. If you want it, you're probably going to have to pay for it, right? But somebody didn't have to build that house. They did. And if you want it, you're going to have to pay some money. It's the same thing with something like this. It's like, I didn't have to create this. I could have sat back and just done free videos, but I decided to provide even more value for people and to say no to a lot of the distractions in the foraging world and in the tree identification world and just condense all the information that I think is necessary for people and make it real easy for them to go from point A to point B. And if you want it, you can buy it. You're not forced to. But some people take offense to that. And the second that you try to sell them something, they get upset. But I'm okay with those people leaving the list because I don't want that kind of negativity surrounding me. Because I have to remember I'm offering a service, a very valuable service. I'm not trying to cheat anybody at all. Like it took a lot of money and a lot of time to produce this. The least someone can do is just like hand me that thing that we call money, which is just an exchange of value. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But to answer your question simply, no advertising, all organic. But a lot of it's word of mouth. I see a lot of people sharing it online. So that makes me feel pretty good when they do that.
Okay. Cool. Love it.
Edible plants next?
That's the number one requested course. And I don't think I'll do it for a couple of reasons. One, it's such a big topic. I would have to narrow it down to some degree. Because the thing that I run into is if you don't include everything, people get upset. People want things to be super comprehensive. If you look at any field guide online, the number one thing people say is it didn't have enough plants or it didn't include this area, it didn't include that.
Right.
There's so many edible plants out there. And I feel like, how could I whittle it down? The thing about trees is that
herbs
in this area, in Pennsylvania, there's only about 150 native tree species. So 100, that's pretty good. I include about 100. With mushrooms, I did narrow it down to the most easily identified. Now, I know I could do that with foraging plants, but the other thing is I don't have a good kitchen setup. And I feel like if I talked about edible plants, I'd also have to include the kitchen component on what to do with them. I just don't have those resources right now. And I'd rather be outside, keeping people outside. That's why I like to do the videos that are focused on the outdoors. But it is a good idea. And a lot of people have recommended it.
Yeah. Yep, particularly nowadays, I think. They got dandelions out front, maybe, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe one day we'll see.
Yeah, right. You know, that's a big task or whatever. Do you ever use other people's material and base like, I mean, yeah, obviously you're doing research, but would you ever find a competing class or competing document or whatever and use that as material to base what you do on?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, just like, I mean,
inspiration,
like
or secret outline.
Like, for example, I did a podcast or whatever, and we were going to do a podcast on cereals, for example. I just went into ChatGPT and said, give me the list of cereals, you know, give me the unending list of cereals, give me 100 of them or whatever, whether they're on sale currently or not. And here they come. That, you know, I was thinking that if you were to, you know, if we're up to you, if I held a gun to your head and said, yeah, you want to get edible plants and do that, then would you just would you turn to something like a ChatGPT or whatever AI, or how would you begin to assemble the material for another course that would get you quicker out into the field versus doing the painstaking research where you go down a lot of rabbit holes and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's basically the pre-planning stage, number one of the strategy. And I'm actually involved in that right now because I have a third course coming out in May, but I'm already thinking about a fourth one on old growth forest ecology.
Okay.
And so my outline is basically based off of reading a lot of books on old growth forests and seeing how the chapters are outlined, seeing what people are talking about, and just spitting from like my memory of what I recall about other people teaching about online courses. I'm sorry, about old growth forests, and then putting that into the online course. I don't use ChatGPT at all. I've never used it. I've used like what's called Gemini now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Bard.
Yeah. Any of those engines. Yeah. Copilot.
I don't find it that helpful. I mean, sometimes for checking like phrases and stuff like that, but as far as outlines, not so much. A lot of it is just based on something that I'm super interested in and I already know something about, and something that can be broken down into modules. So that's the other thing. The course I'm coming out with in May is on ecosystems of Eastern North America. Although as a marketing strategy, I'm not calling it Eastern North America so that I can reach more people, but they're all filmed in Eastern North America. The one problem I ran into was how to break it down into modules. It's a shorter course. It's only 6 hours long. And I have 4 or 5 modules. And the ecosystems themselves, I could only break down into 2 modules, wetlands or non-wetlands. The problem is there's 5 lessons in the wetlands. There's 12 in the non-wetlands, but I didn't know how to break that down even further. So sometimes I run into those kinds of problems. Like, how would I even break this down? Because with online courses, I don't think it's a good strategy to just release 70 videos and just go to them one all the way to the bottom. You need to break them up so that's more digestible for people.
Yeah.
I do a lot of research in advance. I mean, sometimes it takes me months in advance to do pre-planning. It's not super quick. It's not just like brainstorming one day in the coffee shop. I put a lot of time and effort into it because once you start, it's like you kind of have to go with it, especially when it's seasonally dictated. And I know I have to go out there in October to capture this. So I have to think about those kinds of things. Yes, there's shortcuts.
Perfect.
Yeah. Did that
I can break it down to wetlands and really wet wetlands.
Yeah, maybe.
Swampy wetlands.
Yeah. It was kind of difficult, but we'll see how the audience reacts to a module with 12 videos in it. I think they'll be okay with it.
Yeah, like for New Jersey, like New Jersey, you have pine barrens and stuff like that, and you've got like you got lots of small creeks and stuff like that versus just being sort of out there in the mud and muck, like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Whatever. But I appreciate that. It's really great. I'd be an unending source of ideas for you. So if you ever need any ideas, give me something. I mean, there's herbs and, how to identify herbs out in the wild.
That's why I said it's a challenge. Think of things that you could do an online course on. And some people who don't know that much about ecology or nature, I mean, can start thinking of things like, oh yeah, look out there, bushes. You can just do one on bushes. You can do one on grasses. You can do one on butterflies, Yeah. I mean, there's so much information in books. There's so much information on YouTube, but package that now into a course. It's like, I think that's where the opportunity is today. It's in courses because everything that's been said has already been written in books, as far as like scientific information that isn't too groundbreaking anymore. And everybody's put out the free content, but how can you synthesize that into a very structured program called an online course? There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
Because people do want shortcuts. And that's, even though we don't take shortcuts creating online courses, that's what they're looking for. They want to look for something easy. How do I get from point A to point B? And so when you're thinking about even pricing an online course, you're told, don't think about how much work you put into it. Don't think about the costs associated with the online course platform. Think about what it means to the customer to be able to get from point A to point B quickly. Even if quickly means 26 hours, it's still a lot more quickly than going to a university or trying to like pour through encyclopedias or trying to like look through YouTube. I mean, you've done a lot of work for them. So think about pricing whenever you think about what that means to the customer.
Adam, this was wonderful. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, feel free to email me. You could find it at learnyourland.com as the contact form. But if you want to start an online course and you have any questions, let me know.